but if you don't know Dottie LeClaire, she never stops working. Never stops working. In the Kagan tradition, if she ever does decide to retire, well, she'll be just too busy to go back to work because she has been working hard all of her adult lifetime for all the ideas that we care so much about.
Woohoo! Yes.
Now, I'm going to try and stand in the sun so that my very good friend, the Queen of the Whitehead family, who's here with us this evening, anything that I'm going to say has been thought of by her a little while ago, and her family, and written about, and the whole nation has been better because of it. I thank you for all being here this evening. Dick Goldsmith is in the other room here. He's had a few private moments with his wife. He only gets to talk to her in public, and that's a good thing, Dick. Dick raised up and created the Democratic Party in Waupaca, Waushara County that helped make a significant impact in the election, almost, of Fred Clark. We have gone through some collective experiences together, all of us. But never forget, never ever forget how we got into this mess. It was the Republican Party's policies of borrow and spend and don't pay for anything that got us 2 wars without paying for a dime, 2 tax cuts to the very wealthiest people in America without paying for it. A Medicare Part D program, $400 billion, haven't paid a penny for that either. And when you all look at what happened in the financial system, how it went dry of money, where did the money go? It didn't go into working families, it didn't go into the working class, it trickled up. Just everything the Republican Party says they are, they're the opposite. When they tell you, we care about our children and we're going to educate them, it's just the opposite. They go and vote to cut $1.6 billion out of education. Now, what kind of people will we be? What kind of nation would we become if we turn our back on the next generation, failing to give them the education they're going to need to compete in a global marketplace?
Yes.
So what kind of people would vote with the party of no? But you know, I'm one of the casualties, as we all are. There's no second place in politics. Last election, the politics of no defeated the politics of yes, we can, maybe. So where we have to go now, if their message is so strong, I got to think maybe we should adopt some of their language. Well, whatever it is, I'm against it. You start talking about AIDS or HIV, well, as a doctor, I'm against it. You want to talk about polio and smallpox, I think good government ought to step up and be against it. And good government did do that. Whatever it is, we're against it. By God, a middle class. Well, I'm against it. They ought to be in the upper class. The upper class ought to participate and pay their fair share. There has been a debate. There has been a debate about the national debt. Never forget how we got that debt and the deficit. We got that way because of their losing policies of trickle-down economics, which are no different than taking a gallon of gasoline, going and putting it on the American-made car's hood, pour it on, and see if it'll trickle down in the engine, make it get somewhere. Trickle down doesn't work on the farm. It doesn't work pouring it on the... It just has failed miserably. Why would anyone in their right mind vote for that other party, the party of no? Well, look, there's a lesson I learned in losing. You know, you can learn a lot more from losing an election than winning. When you win an election, oh man, you are so busy now you don't have time to do much of anything. You are really trying to solve every problem that you can. So let's think things all the way through and ask the question, what kind of nation are we and which direction shall we turn? We have an open seat for the first time in several decades for the United States Senate seat. We are so fortunate to have had Russ and Herb to represent all of us. All of us.
Yes, we have.
But they did not represent all of us alone. They couldn't do it by themselves. All of us The Democratic Party helped them to get where they worked and to do the job that they did. A Democratic Party helped to be founded in the late 1940s in part by my father and his friends, who were, well, you know Pat Lucy, you know about Mr. Nelson and Earth Day. Well, Earth Day ought to be every day. It's Bill Proxmire time. He worked his butt off. He made the way for people who are door knockers, Penny. Tom Nelson, if you're still here. The Democrats here in Wisconsin have been progressive-minded. This state has led the United States in education, in social safety nets, workmen's compensation, unemployment, social security, kindergarten. What we need now in this country is a governor of the state of Wisconsin, the progressive state in Wisconsin, of the nation, to lead the nation forward. Imagine what we could do with a governor that could think things all the way through, that didn't already have a check coming in from California. Now, the other day I had a conversation with somebody down in Madison, and he said, well, Congressman Kagan, pejoratively speaking, if you're thinking about what you're going to be doing. Yeah, run for governor. I said to this radio announcer, I said, excuse me, it's 7 in the morning, that's kind of a big word. Haven't you got the news yet in Madison? The governor has cut public education. We can't be using those big words anymore. He took it personally and brought it down to my level. I said, I campaign in rural areas. They just want to know if you're against it. So let's find out. 6 years ago, for the very first time in my life, I ran for public office with Gail Kagan's permission. Thank you again, Gail. And you helped to get your ideas a voice in Washington. I ran because our children were being sent off to war instead of to school. Several different wars. I stood up against every war. I have been unsuccessful in stopping that war. I'm against failure. We have to bring all our soldiers home from every foreign land. To make war, it's our worst human failure. Every dime we spend blowing somebody else up overseas creates more anger, more hostility. It is not an act of reverence, it's an act of irreverence. It's not who we really are as a nation. We must become a nation that has more compassion than cruelty, more kindness than hatred. Here, here. I ran because my patients couldn't afford their prescription drugs. So, for the first time in 100 years, the democratically led House and Senate and President signed a new piece of health care legislation. Now, some of you may remember the double entendre of my campaign slogan of no patient left behind. Yes. You said, hey, Doc, that kind of sounds like no student left behind. That's not working out so well. I said, okay, you get a good line like this with a Democrat, you're going to get something out of it. What we got out of it were essential new human freedoms. First and foremost, there'll be no longer any discrimination against any citizen through a pre-existing medical condition. Yeah. Outlaw it. It's done. Not the Republican Party of no we can't. That was the Democratic Party with a progressive idea that we should have equal rights applied to the healthcare industry. You will no longer see families lose their home and go broke just because of their healthcare bills. That's because President Obama signed our healthcare legislation. We made progress. We tried to stop these wars. We need to bring our troops home. We made progress in health care, but there is one big hole that really needs to be filled. It's this bleeding of American jobs overseas. We have trade policies. Now, it is no coincidence. When the camera crews were here from these television channels, they're doing a pretty good business right now because there's a permanent campaign. It's not from Wisconsin money, it's outside money. I reminded them that on their way back to Green Bay, they should take a little B-roll, a little video of the empty Kimberly mill. Right. And then they should ask the question,